7-0. If you are a Pakistani fan, you just got to chill. If you're an Indian fan, a thrill. Somehow India has managed to beat Pakistan in all 7 of their 50-over World Cup matches. How bad did it get? Well, England had to invent a new format of cricket just so Pakistan would win a game against India. And so here we find ourselves staring at game number 8. How the hell have Pakistan managed to lose 7 consecutive games against India in World Cup cricket? This video is brought to you by Wicket Cricket Manager. Every day this World Cup, we will be going live at the end of the day's play with our show, The Scoreboard, over on our Jarrod Kimber podcast channel. I look at what happened on the field and also answer questions from the comments. Let's take a trip down memory lane to better assess this rather bizarre paradigm. India versus Pakistan is arguably the highest billing matchup across all sport. And while it may not produce always high quality contests, it always brings with it an ocean of hype. As an event, they work, even if as sport, they don't always. And if you think you as a fan love this, wow, that is nothing compared to how broadcasters and cricket administrators feel about this. I mean, cricket is literally rigged to ensure that these two nations bump uglies as much as possible at major events. India-Pakistan comes with its own personal rain day in the Asia Cup. But how about this? India and Pakistan did not play each other during the first 4 World Cups. Even in 1987 when they both hosted. It means that we don't actually have enough early memories of this matchup. But this is important for other reasons. ODI cricket was kind of mad until 1992. So the World Cup had all sorts of weird things going on, like India losing to Sri Lanka in 1979 and Australia to Zimbabwe in 1983. Teams didn't really understand ODI cricket that much. And Pakistan probably would have won one of their first 4 contests, or if they're in a round robin, maybe even more than that contest, just by turning up at the ground. And here's the other important thing. Pakistan were a much better team than India in ODIs. Despite India's 1983 win, Pakistan had a better than 50% win record, and India did not. So that was just another good reason for Pakistan to play India at this time. Instead, the first time that Pakistan played India in a World Cup was 1992. And if you're a Pakistani fan, you will of course remember that because Pakistan won that tournament. But it was not the most simple path to that victory. They were basically terrible for the majority of the tournament, except against New Zealand, who were probably the best team, but Pakistan beat them twice. But before they beat New Zealand twice and then England once, which I suppose are the most important games, they played India. All they had to do was chase 217, pretty much around a par score for that period. But Sachin Tendulkar produced an all-round performance. He actually bowled quite well, and Imran Khan's men succumbed under the pressure of chasing. They were not yet fully cornered tigers, but that was certainly a game they still should have won. Also, chasing will be a theme, remember that. Have you ever wondered how I watch so much cricket? I use VPNs to log into accounts from all around the world. But because before, even simple things like when something exciting would happen in a match, I would rush over to social media, and when I got there, the clips would say something along the lines of, "This video is not available in your area." In fact, most of the coolest cricket stuff in the world at the moment is geo-blocked because some random board didn't sign a deal where you happen to live. If you're a hardcore cricket nerd, the only way is to have a VPN, and we suggest Surfshark. They will give you the speed of your favorite quick bowler. They're as inventive as a T20 batter after a bunch of dot balls, and they're as secure as a specialist wicketkeeper with the softest hands in the world. And guess what? The kind folks at Surfshark are going to give you a deal. Enter the promo code Kimber for an extra 3 months free at surfshark.deals/Kimber. There are probably other things that Surfshark can help you with, like data and identity theft and traceability and intrusive advertising. But for us, it is our best weapon against the evil cricket geo-block. Go to Surfshark and type my name in KIMBER and get 3 months free today. Because 1996 is another game where it happened. The two hosts met in Bengaluru with an awful lot at stake. Pakistan captain Wasim Akram was not available for selection for the quarterfinal, and so AJ Jadeja absolutely blitzed at the end of that game, meant that India ended with 287 runs. That's a pretty good total for that era. Pakistan, though, got off to an incredible start, even by modern day standards, having scored 84 in the first 10 overs without losing a single wicket. On the first ball of the 11th over, Syed Anwar fell to Srinath, and then came the famous Venkatesh Prasad moment. That was a moment that instantly went into World Cup lore. From that point onwards, it all went very poorly for Pakistan, who eventually lost by 39 runs. Old Trafford in '99 is another interesting one. Pakistan played in the final of that tournament, and they were an incredible limited overs team around that era. India were a team on the rise, but they wouldn't have felt that confident of a score of 228 in that period. But again, Venkatesh Prasad had other plans. This time he obliterated Pakistan's batting lineup with a 5-wicket haul, adding more pages to his own personal World Cup legacy. The notion of Pakistan losing the Battle of Nerves was now the common way of thinking about these games. And, of course, that will come up again later. But up until the turn of the millennium, Pakistan was the more skillful side. And so it is actually stupid that in the 90s, in 3 World Cup games, they didn't manage to win one of them. Especially as the champions and also making a final in those tournaments. And what is more crazy is India's record against Pakistan was not even that good in that era. Between 92 and the end of 99, they played 40 times outside of that main tournament, and Pakistan had a great record in those. Then they would turn up at the World Cup and lose. And the problem was, by the 2000s, India actually became the better ODI team. At Centurion in 2003, Sourav Ganguly led a team who chased down 274 versus a Pakistan pace attack, including Wasim Akram, Waqar Younis, and Shoaib Akhtar. And they did it in the 46th over. Remember, that was a good Indian team. They would end up against Australia in that final. And perhaps the two Ws were not quite in their prime. But this was a huge win for Indian cricket at that time. Sachin's 98 and that 6 over third man against Shoaib is something that people have been talking about for years, and it inspired a lot of batters. Mohali 2011 is unarguably the highest stakes World Cup encounter between India and Pakistan. And it was Sachin Tendulkar again who delivered with a knock of 85 runs, which was aided by Pakistan's Butterfingers. They were guilty of dropping him 4 times. And while Wahab Riaz took a 5-wicket haul, well, Pakistan still had to chase 260. And again, their poor chasing wasn't particularly good, and they ended up crumbling to a 29-run defeat. At this stage, the conversation about Pakistan and their nerves in big games was front and center every single time. But that didn't matter too much, because in 2015 and again in 2019, India-Pakistan games were completely one-sided. Pakistan was barely in the contest, with Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma stealing the show in Adelaide and Manchester respectively. And India were odds-on favourites on both occasions, and they lived up to that tag by completely dominating Pakistan. Oh, and it is worth mentioning in both those games that the men in green were chasing. But wait, because we are obviously missing something fairly major here. Because between 2015 and 2019 was the year 2017. So yes, India beat Pakistan in both World Cups on either side of Pakistan not only beating them, but winning the Champions Trophy in the process. And of course, as we mentioned at the top, Pakistan has now beaten India in the T20 edition as well. So the only logical conclusion is that there is a special 50-over World Cup cross-generational hex that exists. But if you need more, Pakistan has lost 6 out of 7 World Cup games versus India batting second. So this curse of World Cup chasing means that Pakistan has not yet won a game against their biggest rival. And let's just say that they hadn't won a game in the World Cups against the West Indies or Sri Lanka. I mean, who would care? But when Pakistan lose to India, they do so in front of 1 billion people. Basically, it's like that dream where you turn up to school and you are naked. Except that the Pakistan cricket team have done that 7 times in front of, I don't know, between 10 and 15% of the world's population.